Can you please tell me a little bit about yourself, your name, and where you live and work?
Hi, Ebe. My name is Elaine O'Brien, and I live in New Jersey, and I'll be moving to Philadelphia next month for part-time.
Yeah.
Because I'll be doing my doctorate at Temple University in the field of kinesiology, and my area is the psychology of human movement. And while I'm there, I'll be teaching on 2 activity courses, a lecture lab, which will be physical activity, which is my background, and then also I'll be teaching the psychosocial study of physical activity. And in addition to that, I coach groups in New Jersey at different community centers where I work, and also in 2 senior centers.
Right. And can you say more about your background for doing this?
Yes. Well, I've been in health and fitness area for about 25 years, and my background is in I have undergraduate degrees in urban and outdoor recreation and psychology, and I focused on play and fitness and health. And my education is from Kean University, and I've been teaching in the field, again, of fitness and physical activity for a long time, but I've also worked as a professional competitive aerobics athlete coach, a trainer. I was involved in standards and certifications for the first fitness exams in the world, and also got to travel like throughout the United States to Korea, Costa Rica, and Sweden, and just different Mexico and Canada, doing coaching and training of athletes and competitive aerobic judges. And then last year I went to China and I led a workshop at 2 universities there on physical activity and positive psychology for flourishing in the world.
Right.
And my theory is around using our healthy bodies for the greater good.
Yeah. And how did you learn positive psychology?
I was a graduate student at University of Pennsylvania Master of Applied Positive Psychology program, and I got my degree from the MAP degree in 2008.
Right.
And then last year I was very lucky. I got to study at University of Oslo, and I studied with Dr. Antonella Della Fave, who is a medical doctor and the current president of International Positive Psychology Association, and I took a PhD course there in positive psychology and cultures, cross-cultural experiences for individuals and groups.
Yeah.
So it's very thrilling to study with her.
Yeah. And do you have specific coaching training?
My training, I was a member of the Penn Resiliency program. I went through the Penn training, and then we also had positive psychology training with at Penn.
Right. And so what's your job today? Like, how does coaching fit in today?
And it fits in today. I teach about 10 groups a week in group coaching. So it's small groups, somewhere between like 8 to maybe 14 people in a group. And the coaching that I do is around physical activity and movement. So that's primarily my full-time job.
Oh, and that's a small group?
Yeah, I guess it's a big, small group. And then I also am doing writing on lifestyle medicine as well.
Right. And the people that you coach, do they bring up issues, or do you choose what to coach them in?
Actually, it's more about like getting into your body and into your mind and into your heart. So they do have issues that they bring up. For the past 15 years, I've focused primarily on coaching and working with older adults, so people 59 plus. So currently my coaching client groups range from about 59 years to about 94 years old.
Right.
But
Wow.
they're very fit and lovely.
Yeah. And what issues would they bring up?
I think primarily my coaching is around it's around the whole lifestyle, the lifestyle medicine. It's kind of cutting edge because it's to prevent the risk of heart disease and to prevent diabetes and other risk factors, including depression for individuals. So it's more about helping people to learn and integrate physical movement to have a healthier lifestyle for their whole life.
Right.
And also a big part of it is in communicating with people so that they feel safe, they feel a sense of awe about being with their body in space, the kinesiology part of it, and then also to build connections among the group, and that's especially valuable for people.
Yeah.
Especially older adults who have like losses.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And how do you do it? Like, what do you do?
What I would do is I would welcome everyone to the session and make sure that everybody says hello to each other, and then I would do a little bit of a meditative exercise with them so that they can just like kind of center themselves around their body and space and their movement. And then we kind of just like, I'll put music on, and then we'll move to the music. And then what we do is we'll have like different breakouts where people get together, they'll be in pairs, and we'll do stretching. And during that, what I do is impart positive psychology ideas, including the ideas of strength and resilience and communitas, moving your body in unison in a group, and it's particularly powerful to get the experience of moving en masse. We do talk about self-determination and different principles around positive psychology. I have had them do the strengths assessment, the VIA strengths, and then I will individually like talk with people as well as in groups, like during breaks and so forth. So the goal is in trying to get the whole mind-body-spirit connection, and the group idea really provides a lot of support and growth and joy.
Yeah. And so practically, do they sit down part of the time on chairs, or is it like an exercise room, or what?
It is kind of an exercise room primarily, but we do sit in chairs, and we will like have discussions. Even if we're doing something like having a talk or something, we'll be in the moment, and I'll have them toe tap or do something dorsiflexion to improve their balance and their flexibility. So it is a physical conditioning program with the emphasis on, again, the mind, body, spirit. But what I'd like to also do is impart the positive psychology messages to help people really realize their full potential and then transform into their best possible selves.
Right.
So during the seated part, we can talk about different aspects of maybe issues they're going through. Like as an example, one of my students lost her husband recently. So the people, we talked about that losses and how we could get together and break out and help each other through times of pain, as well as share joy together during experiences that are meaningful.
Yeah. And you said you sometimes also use the VIA.
Yes.
So how do they answer it at home, like on the internet, or what?
Yes, that's what I've done, and they bring their scores in, and then I'll take time with each person to go through that, and then we'll have like little exercises around the VIA, and where I put the chart up with the strengths, and people go to it and communicate about their strengths. So the focus is again on the safety aspect, so that they come feeling safe, comfortable. And that my goal is that everyone leaves feeling really successful, that they leave feeling elevated.
Yeah.
And like some awe will occur through that.
And how do you find the time to talk to them individually when the rest are there?
Right. Well, that's sometimes like we'll do things where they would be like if they're doing something like a activity where they're talking together, and we'll just like I'll grab some people for a few minutes and then talk that way. So either before or after like the group coaching session, or make appointments around that. So
right.
There's an individual component as well as the group component.
Right. And so if I signed up, what would it look like? Like I show up, what happens then? Like,
well, if you show up, I would love for you to show up. And we would welcome you to the class. I would introduce you, like I know everybody's names in the group, and it's a pretty intimate experience. And you would probably wear something like loose, comfortable clothing, some kind of athletic shoe or something like that. And you would just, like we do a body scan at the beginning. I also use music for motivation and inspiration. I would give you a health assessment for you to fill out, ask you to do the VIA test. And then and also the positive emotion test, and then take it from there. Find out what your wishes are for the class. What would you like to get out of the program? And then we would just move together. And then it seems like that with the movement, as well as like when you like touch people with their approval, of course, it just frees them to be able to really express their views very candidly. And it's very refreshing, actually, because I think we spend so much time closed and seated.
Yeah.
So that would be what it would look like, and then we would have some time to talk. We'd schedule a time for us to be together and just see more, delve more deeply into your wishes and dreams and goals.
Yeah. So that would be individually?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So but then there is the integration of sharing like what you've learned in positive psychology, and I think that provides like a really graceful kind of reinforcement. It's kind of out of the box kind of coaching, but it seems to really work. I've had like a lot of retention with people who keep coming back. I charge a really low amount for the coaching and get a group. So I think that's another thing, that people come and they feel like physically they're getting the training they need for their cardiovascular system, for their flexibility, for their strength, and for their balance, which is also really interesting because there are like the psychological components of balance in your life, of strength in your life, of resilience, and of the zest in your life. So it's kind of a tie-in that has like a both psychosocial kind of point as well as the physical.
Yeah. And so can you tell me more about how you use assessments?
Yes.
Like, so I fill out an assessment, and then what happens?
So if you fill out an assessment, we would go over what, like as an example with the VIA strengths, I find that's really a wonderful assessment because it really does focus on strengths, and also character, as Chris Peterson says, is the part of personality that matters. So I think people really love to find out what are their strengths, to focus their strengths, to try and find what their signature strengths are, and to be able to use them in different ways. And within the group, to be more kind, or to be more grateful, or whatever, that more have more control. So that assessment, I would say, again, there's that component where it's like three-pronged, where they would take the assessment at home, where I go over individually with them, and that is pretty brief. It's like, oh, let's look at this, and then we'll get together in the group and then talk about that. So it's great because everyone can realize their strengths and get that support. Oh, well, you have gratitude, I have gratitude, and then how do you use that? And that's a really lovely thing. The other assessments are more like, again, with the positive emotion, it's more private between us, between my client or student and me, and then just to assess before and after at the beginning when I first meet them, and then maybe a baseline would be about 12 weeks later to see, you know, what's going on with that.
Right. And so the conversations that you have in the groups, like what could they be like?
We would talk about things like best possible self. We would talk about 3 good things that you would do. We talk about body scan, about maybe like different health issues that maybe people are going through, or benefits that they've gotten. So as an example, again, this is, you know, the positive psychological coaching with the physiological component involved. And so physiology is a big part of it, but also the group context helps to provide like a lot of reinforcement. So as an example, I had a woman come in one day and she was talking about how she went to her doctor and the doctor took her off her blood pressure medicine. So that was like, everybody was just so happy. Like, so it was like, again, shared joy. What is your strength? Okay, it was zest, and just like, how do you use that? So the best possible self things. It just is very inspirational to be a part of like kind of a big group then, and to be able to talk about things. And then when you move, it frees up like this, it kind of unlocks something in people's minds and hearts.
But it's very interesting because the other people I've talked to, they don't move, they sit and talk. So I'm very curious about what it means.
It's I think it's pretty a new way of thinking of coaching. We've done hikes we've done like half marathons. Like one thing I'll do is we have like a community walk we'll do, and I think a lot of people, and especially older adults, although they say a lot of older adults are happier, but I'm curious if it's just people who answer surveys, but that they really need to not be lonely and to be able to reach out to people and to communicate and talk about their lives and their experiences and what their dreams are for the future.
Yeah. And what would you say is the difference between working in a group like that and working like individually with people in coaching?
I like working with individuals, but I love the energy of the group. I know when I was a competitive aerobics coach for the National Aerobic Championship, I worked with individuals, and one of my athletes was like a U.S. world champion, and that was very exciting. But even during that time, what I would do is I would have my master's athlete train and with another athlete, or so I have that inclination of, I guess I'm a connector, of bringing people together. So it just seems very natural to me to be able to build those kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit tricky because you want to give people individual attention, but yet I think that they also they kind of really cherish that time, and they make like contacts beyond their relationship with me.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of like I'm feeling like a proud mama sometimes when my people, my clients will go and do other things together recreationally or physically or academically, or so it's great. And again, I do like working with individuals, but I think the group context is my home. That's what I really love. Yeah.
And how do they think about it? Do they think of it as a group, or do they think that they're individual coaching and this is something extra? Or?
I think they think of their individuals in a group.
Right.
So I think there's both, because each person is welcomed and greeted, and I'm very I love my clients. I think they make my life so rich, and you know, I do have very good retention, as I said, so I've known people for a long time, and new clients are always welcomed, and it's usually a very, very fulfilling experience, because people, I think, have a need to connect with other people.
Yeah. So it's like an open group that you can take in new members?
Yes, yes.
And some people stay for a long time?
Yes.
Right.
Because things change too, so it's the group is ever evolving, ever changing. And does it sound okay to you?
Yeah, it's really interesting, because the other people I've talked to mostly do individual coaching. So and one person specifically asked today in one of the workshops about group coaching. So I'm really interested in hearing it, because I normally don't do groups, so I don't know how to do it.
I mean, it is finessing. It's very important, you know, especially if there are issues. But like a lot of times, when you're listening to people tell stories, people will actually troubleshoot and help each other out. So and they have a wealth of experience, or maybe they've gone through something similar. So it kind of gets me off the hook a little bit.
Yeah.
And I can always learn. I mean, every day is such a learning experience and a true gift.
And so do they give each other advice, or what do they do when they help each other?
I mean, I feel like I am the moderator or the leader of the group, but we do have like feedback, and where I give feedback that my idea that I made up when I was a National Aerobic Championship international judge and trainer is we had to give feedback to like incredibly talented athletes, and when they didn't win. And it's not like a race where it's like cut and dry, you know who won. It was like maybe a technical point or a presentation point. So my feedback is always around being honest, kind, firm, and fair. So that's how I kind of approach the group with leadership. My goal is that my clients leave feeling successful, they feel energized, and they feel cared about.
Yeah. And how do you make sure they leave feeling energized?
Through the physical activity. That'll do it, you know. Right. And then again, just knowing the people's abilities and trying to help them reach like whatever their individual goal is. I had one woman a few years ago who actually has had diabetes for almost 49 years. And her, one thing that she's a writer and advocate of diabetes exercise, and she's actually writing a book called Sisterhood of Diabetes, and it's looking at ultra athletes who have diabetes. So we trained to do a half marathon a few years ago, so it was really a thrill to have that kind of experience together. So it's just like one example.
And if people have very different goals, how do you work on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So with the different goals, it would be more individualized, like coaching around that. But I think generally the primary goal for the people in my group, which makes it very easy for me, is to be more socially connected, healthy, fit, and to just feel cared about. So that's primarily a goal, more than like, let's say, training to, go to Wimbledon or do something, or to maybe make more money. So it's more like physical activity,
right.
And how can we improve the quality of our lives. And now with this new field, I was up at Harvard a couple weeks ago for meetings on lifestyle medicine, and it's a new field where we are having more patient-centered possibilities. It's kind of going back old school a little bit, instead of doctors telling us, and maybe we're not patients, maybe we're clients, because the doctors up at Harvard want to be more coaching people sometimes. So it's very interesting. So again, the physical activity, I think, is kind of underappreciated in, I'll say, in our culture, like in America. It's not taken seriously that much as a physical, as a positive intervention. And yet, I have an article coming out tomorrow in the Positiv Psychology News Daily about it's called Medical Wellness in Action, and it talks about the epidemic of inactivity in the world today. And one of the epidemiologists, Dr. Steve Blair, cites this Dr. Kahn, who talks about smoke-diabesity, and where smoking, obesity, and diabetes are huge, massive problems in the world, and yet physical inactivity usurps those as the biggest risk factor. Yeah. So doctors are also looking at exercise, and one doctor, Dr. Salas, who's president of Exercises Medicine, is now looking at using exercise as a vital sign, that he wants doctors, and he has almost 4 million people that have used exercise as a vital sign. So if I'm your doctor, I'm going to ask you, like, what kind of moderate exercise are you doing? How many times are you doing it a week? And he wants people to do 150 minutes of exercise a week, and children to do 420 minutes of exercise. So the physical activity component is as important, if not more important, he believes, as measuring heart rate, your pulse, your blood pressure, your temperature. And so it's really important, part. So I feel like that's a contribution to a new way of looking at coaching in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And when you work, do you take some of the traditional positive interventions you mentioned?
Yes, I think they're really lovely, and we do 3 good things. So there's that more Buddhist appreciation for things in our life, the gratitude. We do savoring, even like savoring a shower after like a sweaty workout. It feels so great. So talking about savoring our food when we're eating it, maybe having a blessing before the food, savoring our families. So we talk about different aspects. I love that Bryant piece on savoring, as I said. Again, the best possible self. We talk about that. What would it look like? How about, in half a year? How about in 12 weeks? What would you like to be doing? And people, not everybody stands and dances or moves. Some people sit, and it's perfectly safe and it's perfectly comfortable. Other positive psychology factors, we look at resilience, real-time resiliency, and just different things that we can do to be strong and powerful and feel like we're just really a part of this world.
And so how do you do it? Do you, for instance, the shower, do you tell them to, when you go to the shower, you should notice it or enjoy it, or is it like an exercise, or do you just have a dialogue around it?
So we have had dialogues, and then I sometimes I would give a handout and remember to, you know, to say a blessing, you know, for peace in the world, or something which is kind of out there. But I think that one particular group has a great deal of spirituality, and not to go off on a tangent, but part of this came about on the morning of 9/11, and we were actually in a circle doing some like training together, and a man came in and he told us about what happened at the World Trade Center, and one of the women in the class had 2 sons who worked at Cantor Fitzgerald. It was just, so we didn't know what to do, and she left, and we didn't really understand the magnitude of the situation, and so I wasn't sure what to do except to have a prayer, you know, for everybody, and then we all went home, and it really it bolstered us. It made us be able to get through like a really tough time, and we all gathered around the person who we really cared about. So that really changed my feeling about my pre-positive psychology days. But I think a lot of the fitness, I should say health and fitness, like through associations like IDEA Health and Fitness Association, which has been doing leadership and education in physical activity movement for over 25 years, has been like a real predecessor to the positive psychology movement, and also help people live longer, healthier, happier lives.
Yeah.
So it's, again, putting life into your years, not just more years.
Mm-hmm.
So just, I know that's an aside, but just like to share, you know, that why we have maybe a spirituality component in
Right,
class.
right, yeah. And when you do something, not exactly this one, but when you introduce a positive interventions, one of them or several of them, why do you choose this one and not that one, or like?
When I was a teaching assistant at University of Pennsylvania for Angela Duckworth's Intro to Positive Psychology class, we actually went through about 10 interventions with the undergrads, and I think that there's so much beauty in each one. I mean, doing a good deed for another person. So it is really pretty random, unless there's something that is like filling a need.
Right.
Because I think that each one, it's Acacia Parks today talked about, you know, the six interventions and kind of like the toolkit, and how when you're doing them, it raises the success rate, that people are going to benefit from them.
Yeah. So it's, you don't have a system now, I choose this one in this situation and I choose this one because of this?
Not usually. Not usually. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. It's just because there's one person, one of the people I asked, he would like to know when to use which interventions. So I just started asking people about it. So when do you use it?
Right. Well, as an example, I wrote an intervention that is published in Smart Strengths. Sherry Fisher, John Yeager, and our president of Dave Sharon. Sorry, Dave. And it was called Intergenerational Blessings Day. And it was around, like in America we have Thanksgiving where we celebrate for gratitude. And it was around movement a day. And what we did was I got my older adult group together, and we went to an elementary school with kids like that were in 5th grade. And what we did was we gathered and met the kids, and then I put music on, and that's when the fun began. And we moved through space with the kids, and then we talked together with the kids, and then we had lunch together. And there was we said this. I had a sheet printed. It was the Native American blessing, and we blessed the food and each other, and then we talked about savoring, and it was just like this lovely day, this lovely experience together where we shared. So between the combination of the movement, savoring the experience, the spiritual aspect of it, and then just like the communitas, it was just like it went beyond feeling great.
Yeah.
And and that's actually an article I wrote for Positive Psychology News Daily that you can see too. So.
What's the name of the article?
Intergenerational Blessings Day.
Intergenerational.
Yeah.
Oh. I must read that one.
I actually have a copy for you.
I'd like to have that one.
Sure.
And when you work with people, do you share your knowledge? Like tell them
Yes.
about the research or models or theories?
Yes. I think a great time to do that is when you're warming up your body, preparing your body for the exercise, and then you have a stretch. That's a great time while you're static stretching your body, and there's maybe quiet music or no music, talk about that. And then at the end, it's almost like there's a debrief about different aspects of positive psychology that you can apply into your life, into your day, and really go to flourishing from there.
Is that while they're stretching or after they're stretching?
Both.
Both.
So while we're stretching, talk maybe a little bit, okay, this is what we're going to do. How about let's focus on maybe being grateful for our healthy bodies. And again, one of my themes is using our healthy bodies to help others. So and then at the end of the class, to answer your question, we'll do like a debrief and talk about, okay, this is a positive psychology intervention, and the takeaway today is to go home and to write down 3 things tonight that you're grateful for.
Right.
Or
and
savor your shower, and talk about savoring, or active constructive response and being kind to people.
Right. And do you follow up next time?
Yes, and that's probably the beginning of the class, how to do, and even when people are coming in, because they'll come staggered times, let's say if we meet at 8 a.m. in the morning, some people might be there 10 minutes early, and then we usually start like about 10 after 8, and then people will give me a little feedback, and then we'll have a sharing too.
Right. Let's see.
One thing too that we've done is gratitude is a big part of it. I guess that's my top strength. So we've done things where we do a fundraising, we do a race for the arts, for this performing arts center in our community, and they're actually setting up a cooking school on the top floor for people who are visually impaired. We've done outreach programs for Musameko, which is an agency in Central America to help abused women and children there. So we have fabulous women that come, and they collect toys for kids around Christmas. We collect food for the food bank. So it's just like a lot of positive psychology in action too.
So the same people that you train, they also do that?
Yes.
Huh? Right. So there's many things going on.
There's a lot going on, and it's just taking a regular, let's say a fitness class, a traditional fitness class, and then kind of adding the positive psychology component to really flourish, so that again there's that feeling of like success, of feeling like that you are connected with people and for the greater good. So
and the people who sign up, do they know what will happen?
They have an idea, and again, people are welcome. I don't really advertise it either, so people kind of come through word of mouth.
Right.
And it's a good amount of people that come. It seems like it's meliorism. It's just the right amount of people that come, so it's a blessing.
Right. Yeah. And when you work with people, do you change the interventions? Do you adapt them to the people or the context, or do you stick with the original, how it was described in the research literature?
I think that a little bit of both. I mean, like as an example, the Intergenerational Blessings Day, that was something that I just created, combining different things to try and have appreciation for people of all ages. And I know that, as an example, when the younger children, the 5th graders, see the older people who are quite amazing and can do a lot of great dancing, as an example, to like, let's say you put a hip-hop song on and they're all like dancing, and they might know some of the routines, so they're really good at it. I mean, the kids are just like in awe. They can't believe it. It's so much fun. And then it gives, like, I don't know if I even like the word seniors, but like the people who are the older adults, as an example, it makes them feel so good, and it should, because they're just fabulous. They're vibrant and they're zestful, and they're joyful and just really caring people. So it's really lovely. I've been told that I create like a climate of like positive energy around it. So it's to answer your question, some interventions we keep as they are, and some we'll make up as we go along.
And can you say something more about the climate?
The climate is safe, again, effective. I want like people to really get the most out of it that they can for, improving cardiovascular health. It's the #1 killer in the world. So not to talk negatively, but to me, cardiovascular health and improving heart rate variability, I think we're going to see a lot of important research about how important it is to be able to strengthen our hearts and our lungs and our systems, and how the integration, like as John Rady said in Spark, it's just like it feeds your brain with lots of oxygen. It makes you smarter. It makes kids smarter and adults smarter. So it helps to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's or dementia in older adults.
And can you say more about the climate? So it's safe.
The climate, safe, vibrant. It's meditative, where you're, when you're starting, you're doing a body scan about, how's your body feeling, like what feels really good, what might you want to improve, like do you need to stretch your hamstrings a little bit more, and then in terms of the climate, safe, joyful, one where there is an active constructive response element, where I give feedback constantly. I call people by name, even if we're doing a group activity where it's a physical activity. Like I'll be able to say, okay, Judith, that is excellent form there, and or just so let people leave the training, the coaching, feeling great.
Yeah. And when you give feedback, how do you do it? Like now you gave an example, but some people, when I was training martial arts, for instance, they were always correcting the mistakes, and that was how they gave feedback. How do you give feedback?
Again, like based on my competitive aerobics coaching / judging and training, the model is honest, kind, firm, and fair. So I would never want to give anybody feedback that made them feel bad. But I think one technique is that, even let's say if you were looking at postural alignment as an example, and I think, again, we had Richard Schusterman, and he talked about somasthetics and the mind-body connection, and like with Feldenkrais and Alexander technique. So as an example, if I was going to look at your posture, I could say, Ebe, your posture looks really great, and if you want to improve your circulation, you might want to uncross your legs from time to time.
Right.
So that and if really helps. Like, you don't have to. You're doing great. Your posture is excellent. But that and if, start with the positive, and again, like that's honest. It's kind, it's firm, and it's fair, because you want to be able to give people that kind of reinforcement, and I think kindness really matters, as Chris Peterson would say.
Yeah. So the way that you do it is kind.
Start with a positive, and then you can say, and if you want to change,
right,
you might do this.
Right. I have some questions. I don't know if they're relevant to the way that you work, but at least in psychotherapy, they seem to be effective factors, or factors explaining some of the variance in outcome, especially in individual therapy. And I assume that some of these factors are also important in coaching, individual coaching. But so do you do something to establish credibility, like so people believe in you or believe in positive psychology?
Yes. I think that a lot of people have seen me go through my master's degree, and people who are new have been told by other people that I have a master's degree from the Ivy League school. And I also do writing, I do speaking in the community, even writing for Positive Psychology News Daily. It's a wonderful avenue for people to be able to see your credentials, and also that you have the knowledge base and the experience to be able to be a leader and a coach.
Right. And what about especially in individual coaching, the relationship between the coach and the person being coached is very important for the outcome, I believe, because that's what the research suggests in psychotherapy. What do you do to establish good relationships with the people?
Oh, I know their names. I don't hesitate to phone them if I haven't seen them, to ask. I've had them to my home. We'll have a special get-togethers, parties. I think that also when we do good to help others, it really bonds people together, and I feel mostly very appreciated by my students. And I think that's because they know that I really love them and I care about them and want what's best for them. I have a lot of respect if somebody's missing in action. I'll bring in a card and we'll sign a card for them and mail the card out. So just little thoughtful things that you can do, or maybe just to bring in a treat or something from time to time, or celebrate a holiday, or ask them if they like a favorite song, and then I'll try and choreograph something to that.
Yeah.
Because I think, again, it's a group component or a group idea, but each person is an individual in the group, and each person means a lot to me. So I think they can feel that and they know that.
Yeah. And what do you do to help them? Like in between your meetings or the sessions, or I don't know what to call them, what do you do to help them stay engaged in working towards their goals?
I think that writing goals down is really good. Usually we meet at least twice a week, so that's something where people, they often will go walking or doing other activities together for the engagement. I love the idea of permanent action, like Marty's model with the positive emotion, engagement, positive relationships, meaning and achievement, and that's something since Flourish came out and I first heard Marty talk about it, I've really tried to make that part of the model, and I think part of it was already the model, but there's a stickiness around the activity that tends to really be reinforced, so that the people are feeling those feelings in between times.
Yeah. And do you do other things to help them in between the two times they meet?
I think people know that I'm there for them. If they need me, they can always reach out to call me, or they could come to me personally, individually. But primarily I do encourage the group interaction, and also the connection aspect. So a lot of times they don't need me because they've got other friends and allies in the group that they can reach out to. And it's amazing because I've introduced many people. I have 2 women named Ginny who are just lovely, and they have a friend, Lorraine, they met in my group, and through the coaching they've become great friends, and they go on vacations together and do stuff, I'm like, where are you girls? Oh, we're traveling, we're together. So that's a very rich experience, because I think 6 degrees of separation, we're all in the world together, and if you can link people up, it's just amazing, because we have so much in common with each other. So it's pretty sustainable, Ebbe.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Right. Because other people sometimes have difficulties making sustainable changes. Like in coaching, they try to help their coachee, and then it works for a while, but maybe they get relapse or something like that. So it's really interesting to hear about how you sustain it or help them sustain it.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a built-in booster with the group work, because if they're not with me, there's a good chance that they might be calling each other.
Yeah.
And then there's new stories, and then the group is evolving that way too.
And what did they say about it? What's their response or feedback to you?
It's amazing. It's really lovely. I have one woman who actually last week told me that I saved her life. And she's been with me about 10 years, and I met her. Not to tell you a really tragic story, but she had ovarian cancer and survived that shortly. I met her shortly after, so she, it's very hard going through that. And then she had been through a lot of heartache. Actually, her house in New York like her apartment house like blew up from a gas leak, and she was down at her home by where we live, and I guess the New York Times called up and said, you know, how do you feel about it? You lost your friends, and she didn't even know. So she's gone through so much trauma, you know, some other issues, and so she is there whenever she can. She doesn't drive, she rides her bike, even like not on the hottest days of the summer, but she will get there, or I'll pick her up, or somebody will pick her up, and it's just, it's, I mean, that was just such a beautiful feeling to hear that. I'm constantly inspired by just the authenticity and the just commitment that these people have to just try and improve their well-being and to try and be their best possible selves. The feedback I get is pretty awesome. Yeah. It's pretty awesome. I mean, I think that the best thing is just to see people engage with each other and just connect with each other, and then just really to soar from there. Yeah. It's really, we actually went through a very sad experience. One of our loveliest members of our group passed away. She had diabetes. She was a beautiful woman, Kathy, beautiful, and she had breast cancer 25 years ago, and I met her about 10 years ago when she was in remission, and then about maybe 4 years ago, her breast cancer came back, and she was going through chemo, radiation, terrible things, but the group really surrounded her, and she would come to class in between her radiation, and just beautiful. And then it got to the point where it's just there was no hope, and she actually decided not to do anything else about it. And we perform every Christmas time at this holiday show, which we do for the community. It's hilarious. It's so fun. And 7 days before her passing on Christmas Day, she came to the show to support and to also be supported by these friends. And she passed away Christmas Day at home in her husband's arms with a smile on her face. And he said she looked like she was 20 years old and she was 60. So it was something that those kinds of stories are just like shared. It just means so much that she was such a vibrant part of our experience in our lives. And even to this day, she was the highest leaper in our group, and we have this move, and it's like a jump, and I call it Kathy's Leap. Right. And that will be always Kathy's Leap, because she inspired it. Yeah. You know?
And how can you tell when people are progressing, like that they're moving towards their goals?
That's a great question. So again, you can see, I think a lot reading people, like nonverbal, and again, like that's an area that I really have training in, the nonverbal communication, so I can look at people and see how they're doing, even posture aligned, lifted up. Talking to people, I think it's the best thing. How are you doing? And now I will tell you. And actually, it's a little bit funny because I felt like I created a monster about a week ago in the coaching class. We had 12 people, and 4 of the people were just talking so much, and it was terrible for the other 8 people and me. And I actually had to, after the session, I called the women, and I was like, this is not okay, is everything all right there? And they just didn't even realize that they were being a little bit in trouble with me. But yeah, I think asking people how they're doing is a really good assessment. And then if you do the post-positive emotions scale, that's a very interesting thing. And usually, like pre-testing and post-testing, after 12 weeks, people usually improve their positive emotion. Not always, but...
And what happens after 12 weeks? So is it every 12 weeks you do it, or? Yeah,
you know what, I haven't really been following up, although that would be a good study. And when I do my research at Temple University in kinesiology, which again is the psychology of human movement, I'm very curious to see what other researchers and colleagues will suggest about where we can go with this model.
Right. And what do you think makes it work? These people, when they're progressing and their well-being is going up, what do you think makes it work?
I think going to a place that's safe, where it's comfortable, where you feel welcomed, where people know your name, where people ask about how you're doing, and know individuals, and where you really feel cared about, where there's choreography and music and a sense of fun factor. I think that helps a lot. Again, I think music is a phenomenal motivator, and I think that's one of the best positive interventions that you can give. I actually wrote a story about American roots music for Positive Psychology News Daily, and Aaron Cohen wrote an article about music as a positive intervention. So I think that's a really helpful, even if you're feeling not so hot and you hear a song that you like. And generally with my group, if they're older individuals like 59 plus, I'll try and pick music from maybe their heyday so that they can really respond. And if you look at people's faces and a song resonates with them, you can read that, and that gives me feedback that let me play this song again, next week or next time I see them. I think that you can tell they're progressing also because of their level of activity. With you're able to do more with less effort. I can see range of motions improve. Maybe if somebody's having back concern and we stretch hamstrings more. If somebody's having maybe a problem with their grandchild and we talk about like different active constructive response, or showing your appreciation, or different things, going for a walk together with your child or your grandchild or somebody you loved, it builds that positive relationship to promote engagement with people. Through doing good for others, that is really a great thing. And the positive emotion is all part of the physical activity and the music, and then the achievement. I think if you ask people, again, like as I keep saying, how you're doing, you're not always great, but some days you're feeling great, some days you're feeling good.
Yeah. And what do you do to develop yourself as a professional?
Well, currently I'm at the IPA, International Positive Psychology Association World Congress. So I've been to as many positive psychology conferences as I could attend. I've been at the European Positive Psychology Conference in Croatia. Recently I was at the Center for Consciousness Studies Leading to Wellbeing Conference. Last year I went to the Center for Consciousness Studies Leadership Conference. I went to at Claremont University, where they have the first doctoral program in positive psychology, to the Stouffer Symposium, and you hear great people. It's very inspirational. I was at the IPA conference 2 years ago, and I think I'm a founding member of CAP, the Center for Applied Positive Psychology in the UK. I went to both their conferences. So any kind of learning experiences that I can embrace, I try and really attend to those. I feel a very rich experience in being part of the Master of Applied Positive Psychology community at the University of Pennsylvania. There's extreme generosity among the graduates and the students. I've gotten to present for the classes there on physical activity and positive psychology. Last summer I presented in China on positive psychology and physical activity for thriving at 2 universities there. So that, and along with writing about lifestyle medicine and physical activity for thriving, have really been very positive in helping me feel that I'm contributing and learning.
Yeah, and when you learn something new, how do you integrate it in the way that you work?
So when I'm learning something new, I process it first, especially now. We've learned quite a lot here, and then I'll just try and see what applies, what are the takeaways that I can use. So as an example, I went to Harvard a couple weeks ago for this program on lifestyle medicine. It was very inspirational to hear medical doctors talk about the importance of exercise and how exercise as a vital factor and is something that's coming of age. It's not there yet. I recently had a physical with my doctor. He didn't ask me anything about my exercise program. And even a couple years ago, I did a marathon, and I was feeling really strong and really fit. And like my doctor, not my regular doctor, who I really do like my regular doctor, but his associate was like, well, what's wrong with you? And it was just like, what do you mean? I feel like I'm in the peak shape of my life, you know. So how do I integrate it? I process, I kind of synthesize it, and I try and put it into my repertoire and apply it as needed.
And put it into your repertoire. What could be an example of that?
Again, like to just be able to let people know that like you are on the right track doing your exercise, because if your doctor did not ask you about your exercise regime, pretty soon they will be. Or what you can do is ask your doctor, do you want to know how much I'm exercising in a week? I'm doing 150 minutes a week, and that's what, you know, is good for my, you know, do I really need to be maybe on this dose of whatever, so that there's more information there.
Right. And what do you think makes this way of working, where you integrate positive psychology, what makes it different from other people who don't do that, but work also as coaches?
Wait, I'm sorry?
So what do you think is the difference between positive psychology and doing coaching where you integrate it, or group coaching, and doing individual coaching or group coaching without integrating positive psychology? What would you say makes the difference, or is the difference?
Yeah, I'm really not exactly sure. I know that when I was coaching back when I was working with the athletes, that I did have a very positive approach to it, but now that I have the scientific evidence behind it, it's evidence-based coaching, that does seem to make me more confident and more credible in the field.
Right.
I think I always like had a kind way about me, and was also very results-oriented, but not like, I don't respond when people yell at me or something, so I feel like if you can be honest, kind, firm, and fair, and giving feedback, giving people, be a leader that they will respect, and trying to help them to reach their goals, that's going to be really helpful. And I know Gary Latham's goal setting information, Carolyn Miller, creating your best life, and these are all like so inspirational. So again, I feel like a sponge because I'm learning so much. And I think it's made me feel much happier about my own life, and to be able to help people that way too.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Are there things that we have not been talking about that are important for me to understand the way that you work?
Well, I think that we covered a lot. Again, I think that it is a pretty novel approach. It's like the group idea, which again, it can be a little bit unwieldy, but never really felt like not good about it. I feel really great about it because, again, the connections that we're building. I think also that I'm helping people to put, as I said earlier, more life into their years with bone density, health. Like I've had like physiological changes in my people. Their heart rate goes down, so the resting heart rate goes down. They're able to do more with less effort. They're able to feel a real connection with each other, and also so there's those physiological factors along with the community factor, and I think the community growth is really, really a big part of like that well-being too. It's like well-being for individual level, but also in the group level, and then going out and being helpful and vibrant in the world. And like as an example with the intergenerational group, I tell my students they're models. At one community center where I coach a small group, we have a summer camp going on in the same building. So when the kids come in, they can see these senior adults. And the other day we were laughing because the kids usually sit and they'll paint or do, but they were doing jumping jacks and they were jumping around. And so I want to get together with the kids, my older adults and the kids together, and do some more of that kind of work.
Yeah.
But I think we can learn from each other. We have respect for each other and ourselves.
And other things that we've not been talking about that are important to understand the way that you work?
I think the main thing is I love the idea of appreciative inquiry, to ask questions that bring out the best in people. I love the active constructive response, to help people learn about that, to build relationships. I've had family members thank me for helping their either wife or their mom or dad. You know, I go to the post office, and one of my students is the dad of the lady who works at the post office, and she's always so happy that her dad is in my coaching program.
Right, yeah.
So it's been like a joy. I think it's evolving. I think it's pretty novel in terms of trying to fit a lot into 1 hour session, but we can booster it if people need me. I'm there for them, because I really do care.
Yeah. Other things I need to understand to kind of get the...
Why don't you come and see me?
Yeah.
You have an open invitation.
Yeah. I might do that. I might just do that.
I would love it.
Because I'm here from August till December in Boston.
Wow.
So Philadelphia will be pretty close.
Yes.
But what do you do if you move? Like,
I know, this is like such a dilemma for me. So when I move to Philadelphia, I will be able to still continue my coaching practice on Mondays and Fridays. So at least I'll have the 2 days in. And that was definitely a hard decision, but with getting the fellowship, I have so much encouragement from my students. I think they know how much I'm having trouble not seeing them 5 days a week, but at least I know that I'll be there 2 days a week, and then I can do boosters on Saturday and Sunday. So.
Right. And what advice would you give to other people who would like to start doing coaching this way that you do it?
Wow. So I think you have to have a love for people and care about people and show that you care. Learn their names, find out about them, get as much positive psychology education as you can, because that will really help you to go from, let's say, a fitness trainer, let's say, into a positive psychology coach / physical activity trainer to, you know, again, my goal is for flourishing in the world as individuals, as communities, and as a world, a globe. Like, so to understand about sustainability, how to keep people happy, healthy, engaged around the PERMA model, so to understand PERMA. Other advice to get, if people wanted to do physical activity coaching with positive psychology, to get as much scientific information about fitness leadership and physiology, anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, movement, body and space.
Yeah.
But I think caring means so much. When people know that you genuinely care for them, it just means so much. That you're not just there to, you know, as Dr. Bob Salas says, people need to know that fitness professionals are not just there for your abdominals and your buns, you know, but that they are there to help again. I feel like this is a mission, it's a calling to help people with their psychological health, and also to reduce the risk of heart disease and diabetes and, you know, high blood pressure and things that are lifestyle changes that can be prevented through a positive physical activity program that is complemented with good eating, good rest and sleep. I think that's a really important in connecting with other people.
Yeah. What would you like to know if I could ask other coaches who are implementing positive psychology in coaching? What would you like to know about them?
I would love to know how they feel about getting new clients. I guess it is very different, because I think many people are individual coaches, and again, I have done some individual coaching, but that to me wasn't as meaningful in some ways or satisfying. So I think I just have that group, that love of the possibility of what can happen when you build a positive group. What I would ask other coaches would be, what drives you? What makes you a successful coach? How do you be authentic in terms of caring for your clients? Can you tell me about your successes? What positive psychology tools or interventions have been most valuable for you? I think things like that.
Yeah.